Okay. First, I have to open with an apology. The apology is that I shouldn't really speak about something unless I at least try to do some initial investigations about it. And the issue about how the psukim of Ish Kiyomus Ubein Einloi in Mitzvas Ches, I hadn't looked into. I had looked into the issue of the Ramban, and a priori, looking at the psukim Einloi Bein, you would say that Resata Einloi Bein, it goes to the bas. You would say that a priori that the postulate which the whole parsha is based on is that a son is Yerush first. But the problem is, and this is a very interesting issue, that this, looking at it, seems to be Harashah, Chachukas Oretz, because the psukim before, Su es Roish Kolas B'nei Yisrael, we ben Esem Shana V'mayla, Leveis Avosom, Ko Yotzei B'Yisrael, Vayda B'Hashem Moshe Leimo, Lo Ele Techolok Ha'oretz B'Nachlo V'Mispa Shemois. So that means the Chukas Ha'oretz is the Zchorim. So then comes B'nei Slavchot, Vatikravna B'nei Slavchot, Ben Chefa, Ben Gilot, Ben Mocha, Ben Menashe, Mishpachas Menashe, Ben Yosef, Be'ele Shmois, Ben Yosef, V'chuli Machal, Vatamud Lefnei Moshe, Lefnei Eloza, Akoye, Lefnei Hanisim, V'chol Eida, Peschol Amoy, Ovino Meis, V'amidbo V'chulei, V'loya B'das Klev. Lom Yigora, Shem Ovino B'tuch Mishpachte, Ki Ein Loi Bein. So no Lom U'achuzo B'sech Achei Ovino. Vayikov Moshe Mishpat Lefnei Hashem. Remember, Vayoyme Hashem al Moshe, Kenei B'nai Sofot Oivos. Nosen Tite, Lohem Achuzo, Nachlo, B'sech Achei Ovino, Aviyam, Vavates Nachloson, Aviyam Lohem. So to this point, the whole thing is, there was a question about Chukas Ha'oretz, and there's a Rashah to give the B'nai Slavchot, and nothing to do with Yerusha in general. Okay, so then it comes like this. B'nai Yisrael to Daber. Now, before it was a Hara to B'nai Slavchot. Now it's a Hara to B'nai Yisrael. Ish Kiyomus Uvein Einloi, V'avarta V'snachlosoi, El Echloch Zavita. But the question is, what happened over here? The whole thing is not a discussion about Yerusha in general. It's a discussion about Chalukas Ha'oretz and Nachalos. So that's why the Rambam in the Min HaKotzer quotes the end. And that's the Ramban Chumash. I'll leave you Ramban Chumash. On the Postscript. We ein achim lehoviv, und the satem is nachlosa l'sheva kol ve'elov mishpachtoi, v'yora shoyso, v'hoyisa l'vnei Yisrael l'chukas mishpat kashet tziva Hashem es Moshe. So what's the chukas mishpat over here? The whole discussion, the whole parsha was revolving about an issue of chukas ha'oretz. So what's chukas mishpat? What's the chukas mishpat? What's the Torah saying? See here, the Ramban says the Bnei Yisrael, voice of Bnei Yisrael chukas mishpat kashet tziva Hashem. So chukas mishpat is the Deis. So the Ramban on that portion of time, voice of Bnei Yisrael chukas mishpat, sheyiyeh hamishpat hazeh l'Deis, loy benachlas ha'oretz ato bilvad. So what's the Ramban saying? Oh, it says that the same mechanism that we used in Chalukas Ha'oretz should be used to Yerusha in general, and that's B'nai Yisrael to Daber, and this whole thing. So then it's certainly close, since it's based on Chalukas Ha'oretz and the Chalukas Ha'oretz L'bonim. There's no issue that bonim certainly get, because the chiddush is that the Horah Shah of Chalukas Ha'oretz to bonim, plus this whole parsha which the Rebbeinu Shalom says to Moshe Rabbeinu for Bnei Israel is Chukas Mishpat. So that is what I would suggest. Sheyia Mishpat Hazeh l'Deiros loy b'Nachalos haaretz ato b'lvad. Now, I mentioned last week, and I don't think it was in place, the discussion, but I'd like to just talk about it anyway. I think it's an interesting point. The issue of Yerusha by Goyim. Hilchos Nachalos, Perek Vav Halacha Tes, the Ram quotes it. Hagoy Yerush es Oviv Dvar Torah. Dvar Torah. Aval Shah Yerusha saying, Manich Noisem Lefi Minhagah. The Achronim here have a machlokes whether the discussion of Hagoy Yerush es Oviv Dvar Torah is referring to a son or even to a daughter. The Kovet Shurim has a tzad, the Yerusha Goy is only to the son himself, in Kovet Shurim Bababasel is Shindon Ches. And the Minchas Chinuch assumes that V'zeh Poshet Gam Kein the Yerusha Oviv Shehu Min HaTorah Lav Dafka Bein El Afilu Bas. And then he goes into Yerusha of Bet Noach. And he assumes that Ben and Bas is the same. Now, the question is, and this I think is a very interesting question. Not sure it is no gay in Sefer Mitzvah not. See, the Ramban in Pasha Vayishlach has a discussion about what dinim is, and the Ramban assumes that dinim is not only to dan the Ben Noach, but it's to keep certain dinim, and he gives a list of oines and mafati, he gives a list of shemim and mazik and choyver, a lot of different dinim. The Ram doesn't have that. So if there are no dinim by Ben Noach, and they're only the sheish mitzvahs, and the mitzvah of dinim is to be done in the sheish mitzvahs, what exactly does all this mean? The Ram says in Perek Tes Halacha Yudal V'Chos Melachim, V'Keitza Metzuvin Hein Al Adinim, Chayovim L'Hoishiv, L'Hoishiv Dayonim, V'Sheiftim V'Chol Plach U'Plach, Lord and B'Sheish Mitzvahs Eilu. Ulahaz Yisrael, Ben Noach Shoval Echa Mishem Mitzvah is Chayim Nisi Hog B'Sayim. But the whole discussion is about the 6 mitzvahs and the mitzvah of dinim, which is to be done them on the 6 mitzvahs. So l'chera, there's no place for a Yerusha Akum Dvar Torah. So I would say, just very simply, that according to the Rambam, once you kivei Yerusha with the Din Torah, so it has ramifications in terms of Gzela. But it's not that there are any dinim. For example, I'm not sure how Mekchu Memko works, but whatever would be Keveya in Ben Noach, whatever would be Keveya, the Masu Matan and the Bailus, then there's a question of Gzela. But according to Ramban, these things are meaningful in themselves. He says in Ramban and Bereshis in Yishlach Perek Lamadala Posig Gimel Ve'aldaiti Adidim Shemono Leveninoyach B'Sheva Mitzvos Shalem Einam Loheshim Dayonim B'Chol Plach Bilvad. It's not only that. Avol Tzivo Isom B'Dine Gneva V'Eino V'Eishek V'Sasochir B'Dine Hashemim V'Enis Mufati V'Ovos Nezikin V'Choyvo V'Chaveiroi B'Dine Malva V'Loive V'Chulei. Ki in Adinim Shestav Yisrael V'Ner Galeim Im Gona V'Yoshak or Enis Pita Shel Chaveiroi or Shil Kedisha V'Chovo V'Yoyt. That's the Ramban. But I just want to tell you that L'Cheira, the Ram saying that Vartera, that there's some nafkamin in dinim as far as by Noach. And L'Cheira, I would assume nafkamin is in Gzela. Now, let's go back to Shiur Mitzvas Aseh. So the Ram says like this: we did a major part of it last week. Now we have to do the more difficult part, where he lists the mitzvahs and he sets up his criterion, the criteria for what is a mitzvah hechreiches, which is noy b'chol mokom b'chol zman. So he says like this: Ukeshe tistakel in Ibn Tibin, it's kashet tisbeinein. Be'elu b'masayim u'shmona v'arboyim mitzvahs aseh. Te'imsa ha'mitzvahs ha'echrechiyos mehem shisha mitzvahs. So he's made a decision that there's 60 mitzvahs which are hechrach, which a person will certainly have to get himself involved in. And then he adds a rider, a clause. Ubitnai shoish she'omalnu shechai be'elu ashish mitzvahs echrechiyos she'inyon ki inyon roiv b'nei adam. I just want to show you something. He's using this challah, which is the matzav that the person, the zab, being in a certain state or situation, that yeah, he uses that same word. So that's inyan, or this is basically matzav or something like that. Okay. Now he defines it and he says something which, the truth is, once you'll see what he says, you could have defined this in any way. He says like this: Bibayis b'Medina. The kitza is, I don't know, oimed, he lives in a house. B'Medina or Be'ir, he lives. I don't think we need an ear in terms of a kfar or Medina. He lives among people. He's not a hermit. Okay. He lives in a house and he lives among people. And he eats the normal diet that people eat. V'yochal ha'ma'acholim ha'yeduim l'mozon va'odem. There's no din that he has to eat like that, but he's defining the mitzvah chechiyos in terms of the way people act. V'yochal ha'ma'acholim ha'yeduim l'mozon va'odem. And what are those ma'achol? This will be very important later. Halechem v'abos, bread and meat. And not only does he eat in the way people normally in society least the way we know, but there's no dinim that you have to do such a thing. He also acts in his business life also the way people act. V'yases chayra in b'nei adam. There's a masumat. There's commerce. So he lives in a house. He's not a hermit. He's among people. He eats the normal diet, which includes bread and meat, and he interacts in commerce with others. V'yases chayra in b'nei adam. And v'yisa isha v'yolid. And he gives birth. That is the way Ibn Tibbon ends. In Kapach, it says v'yolid bonim. But a priori, at first thought, but I think it's incorrect. You could say that, you certainly should say bonim because he wants him mechayiv and mila. The question is, see, I said some wondering. I don't know if you can say this. I think it's wrong. Now that I think of it, you certainly need a ben ubas for the kiyum mitzvah, but you understand yourself that the Ram is not talking about the way to Makayim the mitzvah. The Ram is talking about who's chayiv in mitzvahs. So to have a son, you're chayiv in mitzvahs mila. To have a daughter, it's not a mechayiv in something. It's it together with having a son means you're kind the mitzvah. But the Ram here is talking about who the mitzvah hechreches you're chayiv, not how you mekayim them. Now, he lists these 60 mitzvahs, okay? What I like to do, I don't think I'll finish it tonight. First of all, I want to read Shuvas Rabbi Shuanov. We just have to keep in mind the Ram's great-grandson wrote a tshuva discussing the Siyum Mitzvah. I just want to make a comment, which I think is fair. What he says is not Alochel Mishmisinai. Dahainu, to say what he says, we know that's the Ram said. That's certainly, I would say, certainly not true. But we can, for more, what we're going to try to do is assume that's what the Rama might have meant and evaluate it whether it's a reasonable assumption or not. And that's what we're going to try to do. So the tshuva goes like this: Masha Oma she'edar b'bayis ze kedei she'ischayev b'shtayim min hashish mitzvos ve'hein tezvav. That's mezuzah. And Kuf Pei Dalet, that's Micah. Umasha Oma Be'ir Ze She'Ischai Be'Aseh Min Hashishim Mitzvos Ve'Hein. This is going to be more complicated. Vov is the mitzvah Bo Tidbo. Yuda Aleph, the mitzvah is Talmud Torah. This becomes very interesting. Chavov is the mitzvah of Birkas Kohanim. Lamed Beis is the mitzvah Lachle Kovad LeKohanim. Kuf Hayin Hey is the mitzvah of Lintes Acharoiv. Kuf Sadi Hey Sadi Hey is the mitzvah of tzedakah. Okay, that's very interesting. If you're not in the ear or you're not among people, you're not mechuyev in tzedakah. Okay, say that. Kuf Sadi Zayin is the mitzvah lahalvus laoni. Reish Vav, I think it's the mitzvah of the after if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Reish Vav is after Achamoicha. Reish Zayin is the Ahavas Agerim. Reish Tes is covered Lachle Kovel Lachacham. And then he goes on. Umashi Yochal. Umashi Omer v'Yochal Mezoinis Tahainu Lechem Obosa Asher Lechem Tnei Shischai B'Shtei Mitzvos Yutes Birchas Hamozah Kuf Nun Vav B'Yochometz Tashbisu. That's interesting. We'll see. Asher Labosa Kedei Shischai B'Chomish Mitzvos B'Elu Hein Kuf Mem Gimel is Ro V'Chai V'Keva. Kuf Mem Vav V'Shchita. Kuf Mem Zayin is Kisi Adam. Kuf Mem Tes is Bedikas Simone Behema. And Kuf Nun is Bedikas Simone Oif. Uma she'oma v'yisa v'yitin ha'abriyos. Ze kadei she'yischai b'shtei mitzvos. Zayin. Ubo the mitzvah of Shvuah b'shem Hashem. And Reish Ches, the mitzvah mishkolis. Uma she'oma v'yisa isha. Ze she'yischai b'shtei mitzvos. Reish Yud Gimel is Nisuin, Kedusha Nisuin. Reish Yud Daled is B'simach Esisa Shonachas. Uma she'oma v'yolod v'loi bonim kedei she'yischai b'shtei mitzvos. Reish Yud Beis it becomes interesting. Reish Yud Beis is pre-review. What does it mean? So what does he mean? So he says, "V'yol u'masho v'yivol dolei bonim kedei she'yischai b'shtei mitzvos." So Reish Tes Vav makes sense. That's Mila. But what does bonim mean for pre-review? He's mechuyev in pre-review with Masha Omer. I don't get it. I don't understand how he's mechuyev in pre-review over here. I can understand if you learn bonim means that it's a boy and a girl, so it means that's the way he's mekayim the mitzvah. But it doesn't mean that she's chayiv b'shtei mitzvahs. This is a question mark on what he said. V'da sheshar shishim einon hechrachiyos v'davka avahubon kfi she'omar Rabbeinu zal b'matzav roi b'nei adam v'ein mehen hechrachiyos v'davka v'lo nuka mitnoim elu rak lamen alef uvad efshe yoysa achas apochis lefi shebeshar shishim lekoshim tnoim sheish mitzvahs she'efshe yasa isam odem b'chayiv v'efshe shelo yasa isam v'heim Yudalit tzitzis, which and we don't understand. You see, it becomes very, very odd. If that's so why is that in the minyan? And what's the minyan all about? Tzadi Dalit is the mitzvah of Moitiv Secha Tishmo. Kufnan Beis is Bedikas Dogim, because I guess the normal food pattern which he talked about was bread and basa, not necessarily fish. And Chagovim didn't come in at all. Kuf Ayin Beis This we'll see is a Pella. That's Novi, okay. A Novi may not tell him anything. The mitzvah of Shmuel b'kol Novi. Reish Yud and Reish Yud Aleph, I think, is Kibud Aveim and Moira Aveim. I assume so, just make sure. Yeah. I guess, he may not, no, he may be a Yosem or something like that. Okay, say. Now we get started. Ve'elu Ashish Mitzvos Heim Lefi Haseda Shesidanu Isam Mionenu Zeh. Okay. So he's doing according to Satan. All he's doing is quoting numbers and not saying anything more than that. Okay. So it goes like this. HaMitzvah Rishayna, that's number one. The Mitzvah Rishayna is the Anoich Hashem Elokecha, Mitzias HaKodesh Baruch. Okay? So that doesn't take much explanation. What the mitzvah is a shiur, but that the chayiv, you chayiv at all times, in all places, because that's what he said before, if you remember. He says, b'chol mokum b'chol iyun, maybe it's the paragraph before. He says, b'shem shusha. Yeah. And he says, Mehen mitzvah shehein chayva l'chol odem behechach b'chol zman u'b'chol mokom u've'ezeh matzu shiyeh. That's what we're talking about here. So a person certainly mechayiv in the yediyah or the amunah of Anoich Hashem Elokecha. Hashenis liachta yichar Hashem. Also, Ashlishis le'avoy avos Hashem, for Levius liyira mimeno yiras Hashem. V'chamishis is ulovdei the avoid is it is something miyucha, as the Ram says, that's tefillah. L'spaloloi. And the Rambam, when he lists later, does not list that noshim apota from this mitzvah. So it means noshim achayim in the mitzvah tefillah. Discussion of the Gemara Brachos is talking about the Rabban of tefillah. The Ram is talking about the Derais of tefillah. And tefillah is not in the mitzvahs which noshim are potter. So I just wanted to, I'm not sure what happened here. I'm going to read a selection from Pirush Mishnayos. I'm not sure exactly what to do with it. Pirush Mishnayos Kedushim Perek Aleph Mishnah Zayin. Halo yadato she'achilus matzah b'leil Pesach v'simcha b'moadim v'hakel u'tfila u'mikra megillah v'ner Chanukah v'ner Shabbos v'kiddush hayoim kol elu mitzvah Aseh she'azman gromo v'chol achas mehen chiyuv l'noshim ki chiyuvom la'anoshim. I'm not getting involved in this. The last line is very interesting. Those that want to claim that and that's a different chiyuv. Here the Ram is very clear that ki chiyuvom, that l'noshim, chiyuv l'noshim, chiyuv l'anoshim, it's all the same. Now, I'm confused. When he's talking about tefillah, he's talking about tefillah deraisa, tefillah derabon. He can't say, it's his mitzvah Aseh. So using the word mitzvah Aseh in a broader sense that he uses in Sefer mitzvahs, because the he mitzvahs derabon also, because the Mikra Megillah near Hanukkah, near Shabbos. So I'm not sure. Was he mechadish this yet? That there's a mitzvah saved tefillah, and it was a later thing, and it wasn't the Pirush of Shnayis. And is he referring to tefillah Rabbanon because the Gemara l'chayri should be referring to tefillah Rabbanon because that's what the Gemara in Brachos talks about, that Noshim Achayiv and tefillah, the Eisha of Avoike, whatever it is. So I don't know if I'm not sure. Here just an interesting question. I'm not sure how important it is, and whether the Rambam was of the opinion at this point what tefillah is a deraisa. But Mikra Megillah near Chanukah and near Shabbos is certainly the Rabbanon. Could be the Kimoinek, but the Chiyuv of near Chanukah is certainly the Rabbanon. Kiddush Hayoim is the deraisa according to the Rambam, at least in Sefer HaMitzvos. See, you also could make, I just tell you, you can say, but I'm not sure, if there's any base for this. You can say first he mentions mitzvahs deraisa, and then he mentions mitzvahs Rabbanon, then the world would turn over. She'achilas matzah l'el Pesach deraisa, simcha moadim deraisa, hakel deraisa, tefillah could go either way. Then Mikra Megillah, near Chanukah, near Shabbos, the Kiddush Hayoim, and it will be different than what he says in Sefer HaMitzvos. I don't know. Hey, just to think about this. Okay. So now we have up to 5. Until 5 is I must say, it's easy. Okay. Now it gets a little interesting. The next mitzvah is Ladovka Boy. Okay. So you understand yourself, Ladovka Boy, the whole portion, she mitzvah, it's no b'chol what do I have to talk about it? That's correct. But however, there's an interesting point here, because if you recall, the Rabbi Shua Nogid claims that the mitzvah of the Dovka Boy, which is the Dovik with the Shechina, is only, the Chi is only Chal in an ear when you're among society. So the Pshat is the only way to do the mitzvah is through a clinging to others. And if there's no one around, you have no others to cling to. And who are those he's supposed to cling to? Talmidei Chachamim. And the mitzvah of Lidavik Mishchina is miskayim by Lidavik L'Chachim Talmidei Chacham. And that's what he says. Ubo Pirush, that's a Pirush Makubo. Uladovka Boy, Hidabik B'Chachamim, V'Talmideyim, V'Zeh Loshen Sifri, V'chein Heviu, Raya Al Chiyuv, Ha'odam Liso Bas Talmud Chachamim, V'Asi Bito Talmud Chacham, L'Achim Talmud Chacham, L'Seis L'Hem Esek, Me Omroi, Ubo Sidbo. So without people around, you can't. See, I'm just confused. Does it mean without people around, you're not chayiv? Or you can't be mekayim it? Okay. I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong, but it's difficult for me to imagine that one who's a hermit is not obligated by tidbut. Or give you another example. If you look in the mitzvah he has in the ear, Then Kuf Sadi Hey, if I'm not mistaken, that was Stoker. So you're not chayiv in Stoker if you're a hermit? You just deny this. You have no one to give Stoker to. But I don't think it's a question of chiyuv. You see, when you talk about a bias, or you talk about lechem, talking about bias for the Mitzvahs mezuzah or the Mitzvahs maike, or you're talking about lechem for the Mitzvahs birchas hamazon, that's a question about chiyuv, because you don't have lechem, you don't have the bench. You have to say birchas hamazon. If you don't have a house, you don't have to put up a mezuzah. Or if you don't have a house, you don't have to put up a maike. There's no chiyuv. So I'm not sure. Maybe the Rambam is using the word chiyuv in two different ways. Then in one sense, it's a question of being obligated in the mitzvah. It is another issue as in order to be able to be mekayim the mitzvah. That's what I would assume. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's an important point. Then, let's move to the next mitzvah. The next one is Hashmius, Vashmius. Lihishova b'shmoi. To make a shvua in the Shem Hashem. So the Ram said, the Rishua Nogit said, these are mitzvahs. These are the mitzvahs which are entangled with Masul Imabrius. There's a mitzvah, Lishova b'shmo Yis'ala by Toim v'nitan. B'moeder Mitzvas ve'ed echod u'shvuas hashomim. So, it sounds okay. I don't know. It's, you see, the Hechechius over is a little bit odd because he doesn't have to, but if he wants to claim that, that he's, if he wants to claim that he's potter or whatever it is, he has to take a shvur. But he can say, I don't want to take a shvur and I'll pay you up. And that's not a bit Hechechius. Okay. A little odd, but okay. Let's accept that. I want to ask a question. And when it occurred to me, I said to myself, I don't understand this. Okay. What are mitzvahs which depend upon Masul Matan? What are they? He has the Shava B'Shmo Yisala, right? And he has the Mitzvah Mishkolis. Okay. Now, when a person has his Mishkolis, and he's using the Mishkolis in order to weigh something, what is he weighing for? In order to buy and sell. Okay. And in the case of the Shvuas, of the Shava B'Shmo, you could have had it in Shem Esacha, Shem Chinam, by Shoyel. You could have had it in Moedu Mitzvas. Okay. So what you have over here is the case, many cases of dinim, Toyin V'Nitan, right? Toyin V'Nitan, and the many cases of Shoimim, and Mekhumemka, certainly are intertwined and entangled with Masul Matan B'nei Adam. The whole discussion of Mishkolos is irrelevant unless you're buying and selling things. So how is it that the Rambam counts in the Mitzvah Rechios the Shava B'Shmo and Mishkolos, which both of them are only meaningful in terms of Mekromemko or Shoimim or Toim V'Nitan, and not count in the Mitzvah Rechios the three mitzvahs of Shoimim, Toim v'nitan, and mekru memka. So a priori, you would say that since the dinim but doesn't dinim mean that when you're involved in a certain, the religious law tells you that when you're involved in shmira, you have to act in this way? Or when you're involved in mekach umemka, you have to act in the way that the religious law tells you there's a kinyan of moles and all the various kinyanim which the Ram talks about in that mitzvah. Or toim and nitan. So why does the Ram come to the conclusion that dinim are not mitzvah rechios and mishkolos and lishama b'shmo are rechios? And I'm at a loss. But if the conclusion is correct, we'll have something about this as we go on. Let's continue. Next. Now, the next mitzvah is the 8th one. Lidomois b'drochav atem vayishom. B'lacht b'drochav. Rabbi Yeshua Nogid does not put this mitzvah in the list of those mitzvahs which you require an ear, require society, a Medina. However, he does put v'after kamoicha. V'eshvav. So, midas, when is it interaction with people, when not? So I would say that the mitzvah l'achta b'drochav is to project the midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whether people around or not is really irrelevant. If the mitzvah would be like the way the Bahag presents it in the Sefer, or the Moeseita. But this l'cheira, the expression of Rachum and Chanun does not require an interaction with society. Even though it's midas, but what it means is that it's love. If I sit and I'm a hermit, okay, and I love my fellow man, okay, that's not what we're talking about. The mitzvah is that when you see him and you interact with him, you should project this midah. And if there's no interaction, there's no v'afterach kamoicha. That's what Ram means. It's very difficult. It's very important then that it's cholak b'etzim yisei dinoi of the mitzvah l'achta b'drocha of v'afterach kamoicha. What's Abbas Areya is only if there is a Reya. But if there's no Reya in your vicinity, you're not active in a Reya, there's no mitzvah. It's not that you're potter, but you can't interact with them. It's the same type of thing. You can't even be kind the mitzvah. Here, I must confess that I'm completely confused the next mitzvah. That was Shminis. Now it's Chias, not Chias. Chias is L'Kadesh Shmoy. This mitzvah does not require chevra. It's not in the list. So it's independent, whether he's a hermit or he lives among society. So this confuses me, and I would question of Yeshua Nogid, because the Ram Mitzvahs in the mitzvah, in this mitzvah test says the mitzvah is the fasim yichod Hashem b'rabim. So you can't be mefasim yichod Hashem b'rabim unless you're among you're part of civilization. And even if you make a statement and postulate and say in Mishnah Torah, certainly so, say the mitzvahs, we can evaluate it that the niyuk chacham in Mabrios is the way the chacham interacts with his fellow man is also part of the mitzvah, as the Ram says. He said Aleph, but that also involves Aseh and Mabrius, the whole discussion with the chacham, the way he interacts with them. But if there's no one around, you also can't have that. So I'm just wondering, and I'm confused, and I'm ready to be done b'kalka with Yeshua Nogid. How can you say the mitzvah Kiddush Hashem has nothing to do with being involved with society? Next, the mitzvah is now, that was test. Asiris is likol kriyishma pamayim bayoim and noshim ptuos. And that l'chayr is also simple. Now, here I'm also somewhat of a loss. We'll see what we have here. For Aseh, that's mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Okay. Bihi gam kain and noshim chayovis bo. Say that. The mitzvah, the way it's formulated in Miyakotze, Lul Moitera Ulalamdo. There are two parts to the mitzvah. There's learning and teaching. So, if a person is a hermit, he's mechuyev dal Talmud Torah. So I would say definitely yes. And sit and learn. And in fact, just some people use Talmud Torah's excuse to be a hermit. But whatever it is, comes Rabbi Yeshua Nogid in his list and lists mitzvah Yud Aleph as the mitzvah which depends upon living in a Medina or an year. So we have to reevaluate Talmud Torah and understand what is he talking about. So one could say that the mitzvah Talmud Torah is not only to learn, but it's to teach others. And that's what he says in Mitzvah Yud Aleph, Lulmoid Chochmas HaTorah V'Lamdo. Lulmoid Lamed. And Mina Kotz, as we mentioned before. And Hilchos Talmud Torah, Perek Aleph V'Lochadal, Kishem Shemitzvah Olov, L'Lamed Es B'noi, Kach Hu Mitzuvah L'Lamed Atzmoi. So maybe with the Lamed Es B'noi, if you're going off that, the Ram's shame, the mashmos is that the given is to teach, and the chiddush is also mitzvah to learn. So maybe you could claim that according to Yeshua Nogid, the ikar mitzvah of Talmud Torah is to teach others, And the Shiur mitzvah depends on the Ikar mitzvah. And to teach others, you have to have a social setup. So you need an ear. Or you could flip it and say that even though the Ikar mitzvah is also Lilmoid, but the Ikar mitzvah of Talmud Torah is Lilmoid Meirav, Kederch Shalom du Moshe Rabbeinu. And then it's a very interesting thing. Even if the Chasimus Talmud, the mitzvah is to learn from Acherim, and then if that's correct, then the mitzvah Talmud Torah depends upon ear. The ability to make the mitzvah is only if you have a Rav. Now, if I stop here, say, sounds nice. Sounds interesting. But I have a problem. I'm not going to get to this today, I don't think. Mitzvah Nun Daled. He counts, correct? Mitzvah Nun Daled is the mitzvah of Simchas Yantiv. I say to myself, the Simchas Yantiv is to bring korbanos and to eat the shlomim in Mikdash, in Yerushalayim, in the Regel. So you could say that it's Nei b'chol mokom b'chol zman. That's impossible. So l'cheira, it's mucha from that in the Rambam, independent b'shua nogit, that even though the Ikar mitzvah is not knowing b'zman hazeh, but since the chiyuv of simcha, as the Ram adds in Nun Daled, that anoshim b'roiloi, noshim b'roilem, and ketanim b'roilem, so that also is enough to put this in minyan mitzvahs, of the minyan of mitzvah chechiyos. So you don't need the Ikar mitzvah. So you don't need the Ikar mitzvah. Is someone in the right mind going to say that a person sitting in a wilderness and opening up Gemara and learning, he's not chayiv in mitzvah Talmud Torah? That's crazy. So I will be done bekarka by Rabbi Yeshua Nogid in context of the Ram quoting the mitzvah of a Samachta B'Chager. So I'm confused about the mitzvah Talmud Torah. Next, and maybe there's no Hecht Ram learns like that. Maybe the Ram learns mitzvah Talmud Torah is independent of b'chol mokum b'chol zman. It doesn't depend upon here. And the Ram, we know nothing. Now, here comes Bashtei Mitzvah. That's Filin Shalosh. Vihi Gam Kein Noshim Chayavis Bo Vashleish Esrei, which is Filin Shayad. Vihi Gam Kein Ein Noshim Chayavis Bo V'Abar Esrei is Sitzis. Vihi Gam Kein Ein Noshim Chayavis Bo. That's okay. V'Chamesh Esrei is the K'vor Mezuzah, and that I understand. You need Garba bias. The most interesting thing is the Shmoyne Esrei, which the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah. If you recall now, you have to ask the following question. It means that the hechrechios we said before is not only that you chayiv, we have the ability to mekayim it, and that was we mentioned this when in the Ladovka boy and in other mitzvahs. So it comes out that you have the opportunity and the possibility and the chiyuv to mimikayin the mitzvah of ksiva sefer Torah. Lichtei kol ish sefer Torah la'atzma. See here, you come straight against the problem of the Minchas Chinuch. Minchas Chinuch was a shagas Aseh, mitzvah tof ratio gimel. The last mitzvah in Chinuch is Aleph v'nei ein b'kayim mitzvah ad shei kosev gedin sefer Torah. Avam yesh bod dova apoisel oy choser yeser afilo is achas afilo ois eino yotzi dechov a mitzvah ki eino sefer Torah klal. Ein menoch efshe sefer Torah choser ois uksib lo koich as a sefer as a Torah ve'aim Rambam kan hilcha halocha yiralef shekozim kosev v'choser v'chulei v'oid nechshav shom v'om apoislim kosev the ein law din sefer Torah rak k'moy chumish shemalam tinoikis kakosaran perk based in Megillah the im choser is lo kiyim mitzvah sefer Torah ksiv sefer Torah fizeh mitzvah zura fever yodenu mavur begdushin daf lamid boy Yehuda vov the gachoin v'chulei inu havi bekiyim v'chaseres yiseis anan lo bekiyin im kain kivin ein bekiyin im kain efshe kasvinu molei chose o ipcha v'ein mekayim ha-mitzvah klal v'ahei b'zeh b'sefer shagas Aseh simon lamed vov lifto mi-mitzvah zo b'zman hazeh mitam de'ein or bekiyin v'chose v'yos. However, Rabbi said, it's very clear in the Rambam you can't do that because we said that the mitzvahs are not only chiyuv, but it's efseh l'kayim. So mitzvah Hashem, the answer, I think I won't be able to give this because it's longer than the time we have. Mitzvah Hashem next week, Bli Neder, the shiur will be on Wednesday. And I will try to answer this question and other things, Bli Neder.